Alright, today we're going to be learning about the area of a triangle and trapezoid, page 558. Area of triangles and trapezoids. Alright, in the first example, we're finding the area of a triangle. You will have to know the formula of the area of a triangle, and that's 1/2 times the base times the height. Now, the height is the distance between the base and the tip of the triangle, okay? And that will form a 90-degree angle. So I have my base and my height. Okay, so just go ahead and make sure you write that formula and that picture down. Alright, now what if I'm given a triangle whose base is 231 feet, that's a huge triangle, and height is 111 feet. Okay, now we're going to try to figure out how we could solve this to find the area of this triangle. Okay, now let me ask you this. Out of these three terms right here, 1/2 times the base times the height, okay, it's all what operation? It's what? It's all multiplication, right? Now, commutative property of multiplication says I can multiply in any order, correct? Okay, so does it matter if I multiply the base times the height and then half it, or if I half the base first? Does it really matter? No, it doesn't, okay? And to make it even easier, what decimal value is 1/2? It's what? 0.5, right? Okay, so there are several ways that I could solve this, okay? And since we're using our calculators, the easiest way to solve it would be to change the fraction to a decimal and then multiply, all right? So I'll show you all that way. So the area equals 1/2, which is 0.5, times the base, which is 231, times the height, which is 111. Now let's put that in our calculators and see what we find. 0.5 times 231 times 111. When I multiply them all together, A equals 12,820.5. And then I just have to label feet squared. Now, why am I squaring my unit? Anybody know? Why do I square my unit? Because I'm finding the area, right? Anytime I find the area, I need to square my unit. All right, now here's another way you could do this, okay? Now, the first way, I believe, is the easiest, okay? But the other way you can do it is A equals 1/2 times the base, which is 231, times the height, which is 111. Now you can just half 231, half the base. Okay, so you do 231 divided by 2, and you get 115.5. And you multiply that by 111, and guess what? You still end up with 12,820.5 feet squared. All right, so there are several ways that you could do this because of the commutative property of multiplication, that you can multiply in any order. There are several ways that you could solve this once you plug in your numbers. All right, so that's just one of the ways. Okay, any questions on example 1? I'll pause the recording and answer any questions. Okay, now in example 2, just like with the parallelogram, when we first found the area and then we tried to find sometimes the base and sometimes the height, same thing here, okay? So I'm using the formula to find the area of a triangle. A equals 1/2 base times height. But now they give me different information. Now it tells me that it has a height of 10 centimeters and an area of 35 centimeters squared. And it tells me to find the base. So now I have different parts to plug into this formula. All right, so it tells me that the area is 35 centimeters squared, so I plug in 35 where area goes in the formula. Equals 1/2. I don't know the base, and I know that the height is 10 centimeters. Now, commutative property of multiplication says I can multiply in any order, right? So even though that b is in the middle, I can do half of 10 first. I can do 1/2 times 10. Now remember, if you're working in your calculators, you could do 0.5 times 10, or if you know off the top of your head what's half of 10, what is it? What's half of 10? It's 5. It's 5, okay? So now 35 equals 5b. 5b, okay? Divide both sides now by what to solve for b? Divide by 5. And b equals 7, and I need to make sure I label. In this case, it would be centimeters. And I just found my base. Okay? So that's how I would solve. And I would do the same thing if I was being asked to solve for height. Okay? I would just solve for h. So, if you get home tonight and you're struggling with your homework, go back and watch this video. It will help you. Okay? All right, and that's it for example point 2. Go ahead and pause and answer any questions. All right, now let's move on to trapezoid. So that's everything you need to know about the area of a triangle. Now what about a trapezoid? Okay? Well, there's a couple things you need to know. All right, so make sure that you write this in your notes. The bases of a trapezoid are the parallel lines. Those will always be considered the bases. Okay? So this is going to be base. And I will term it B1. And this is the other base. So trapezoids always have two bases. And I will term this B subscript 2. Okay? Now the height of a trapezoid is the distance between the two bases. And again, that's going to form a 90-degree angle. Okay? So this is going to be your height. And we'll term it H. Okay? All right, so go ahead and draw this figure, the trapezoid. Just, kind of sketch it the best you can. But the most important thing is that you know that the parallel lines are your two bases. The reason you have two bases is because they're always going to be different lengths. Okay? They'll always be different lengths. They won't be the same because of the way a trapezoid is shaped. So that's why I have B1 and B2 for the bases of a trapezoid. So now let's actually find one. Let's find the area of a trapezoid when the height is 8 feet and the bases are 5 feet and 10 feet. Make sure you're writing this down in your notes. All right, so now I'm going to plug this into my formula. And yes, you do need to memorize all of these formulas for your next quiz and test. All right, the area equals 1/2 times base 1 plus base 2 times the height. So now I'm going to plug in the numbers. Area equals 1/2 times 5 plus 8, those are my two bases, times the height, which is 8. Okay? So now order of operations says, what do I do first? What do I need to do first? I need to do what's in parentheses. Area equals 1/2 times 13 times 8. All right, now at this point, there's several ways you can solve it. You can take half of 13, which is 6.5, and multiply that by 8. Or you can just change 1/2 to a decimal, which is what I would do in my calculator. And I would say 0.5 times 13 times 8. And what do you get? A equals 52, and then make sure we label feet squared. And that's our answer. And that's how we find the area of a trapezoid. Now, last but not least, example 4. All right, just like in example 2, when we found a different part of the area of a triangle of that formula, we're doing the same thing here. Now we're finding the height of the trapezoid. So it says a trapezoid has an area, okay, so there's my key, right there. It has an area of 66 square meters. The bases, plural, are 8 and 14 meters. Find the height. So now I just take these numbers and I plug it into the formula to find the area of a trapezoid. 1/2 base 1 plus base 2 times the height. Now I plug in my numbers. 66 is my area, equals 1/2. First base is 8, second base is 14, times height. All right, now I do what's in parentheses. 66 equals half of 20, what is that, 22? Times height. What's half of 22?
11.
Very good. 66 equals 11h. Divide both sides by 11. And h equals what? What's 66 divided by 11? H equals 6, and my label is meters. Okay, don't forget to label. And if you understand that, that's everything you need to know for 11.5.